A new report about some popular period tracking apps is raising privacy concerns. The apps collect and store some deeply personal information. And now a nonprofit is warning about potential privacy loopholes. Ariel Reshef has that story.
They're the apps millions of women use to track their fertility, pregnancies, and periods. Staff researchers at the Mozilla Foundation, a nonprofit that advocates for privacy on the internet, warning that the personal reproductive information you provide to these platforms, like weight, birth plan, pregnancy journals, or doctor's appointments, may not be as private as some want them to be.
And they're collecting a whole lot of data, and they're using very similar privacy policies to the apps you use for recipes or picture sharing or things like that.
The organization looked at 25 popular reproductive health apps, labeling 18 with a privacy not included warning, noting that the data you supply may not be secure, and saying that 8 failed to meet the company's minimum security standards. After Roe v. Wade was overturned earlier this year, many women wondering if they live in states where abortion has been limited or banned, if the data that they enter into apps about their reproductive health would be protected, or if it could be shared with brands, other apps, or even law enforcement.
What we found was most companies had fairly vague statements that was hard to tell, whether companies would be voluntarily disclose data to law enforcement if they came asking.
Experts say it's up to each person to do their homework and read that fine print before signing off on privacy terms and entering potentially sensitive information online.
I think that each individual consumer has to do a cost-benefit analysis of how useful they find the product and the types of risk they may be exposed to depending on where they live. And I think that there are lots of products available that are ultimately very useful, very popular tools without exposing themselves to as much risk. So, for example, one that might store data locally on your phone or that doesn't participate in third-party data sharing.
All right, thanks to Ariel Reshef for that report. And I want to bring in board-certified OB-GYN Dr. Jessica Shepard and senior national policy reporter Flaherty for more on this. Thank you both for joining me. And I want to start with you. So many women use these apps. So what are the implications here?
So, Diane, I think there are huge implications. We are living in an era of concerns about our privacy. But, I think it's really important to point out that this is not unique to these period tracking apps. All of these apps collect information, sensitive information. Now, anti-abortion groups say that they don't want to criminalize women seeking abortion, that they want to go after the people around them who are helping them. But obviously, anytime that you have a private corporation or the government collecting information, sensitive information, like, a woman's cycle or her location or her date of birth, all of that becomes a concern because it helps the government and these corporations build a profile on the woman and potentially build a case against her.
Now, Dr. Shepard, can you walk us through the different reasons someone might use one of these apps?
Absolutely. These apps have been used for women for years now when we think of their cycle, sexual activity, even things such as if they have abnormal periods and they really want to find a way to track them. So there are various uses for these apps. The most important part is that this is a health concern. And when women think of the apps and technology that they can use to help themselves with their reproductive health, these are important technology. But now we're looking at the concern of sharing that information when it's a very sensitive and private issue.
So, Anne, what info are these apps gleaning and storing from all of that, and how could that data then be used if it is sold?
So one of the biggest things, obviously, there's the, your name, your date of birth, but it's the location. It's where you are. Where do you work? Where do you go on the weekends? This is all information that companies like to collect about consumers, and then they sell it to other companies, for marketing purposes. So, of course, all of this information that they are collecting is also subject to law enforcement, and law enforcement can get warrants to get this information as well. So, again, it's not specific to these period tracking apps. If you're on a game, for example, and you're inside of an abortion clinic, that location data can go, to these companies, and they collect a very specific profile. I think it's also worth pointing out that even your shopping habits at the local pharmacy, that data also is collected. And there are companies out there that will merge all of this information to build a profile on you that can become very, very specific.
Now, Dr. Shepard, some of this information, it's so personal, it's so private. I mean, some people's partners might not even know some of the information that's being stored there. So what impact can it have on the individual to have this information out there?
Now, that has a great impact because what we in the past is that there have been of charges that have been information shared on someone's pregnancy information and possibly abortion care that they need. So this is really go to now having, post Roe versus Wade, what this will really mean for someone to share their information in intimate detail when it comes to their reproductive health, who's going to use that information and how it can be used against them. So I think that there are ways that we as consumers can look at that Privacy Act a little bit more, but I do think that these companies have a responsibility to change the way that they inform their consumers on what information is going to be shared or it is not being third party, and what is the benefit for the patient to be sharing this information on the app itself.
Now, and Mozilla specifically raises the concern that since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, that data could be used by law enforcement. So how real is that concern, or is it just a hypothetical? And how would that work if it is?
So it's not just hypothetical. We have seen cases where this has been used, information has been used, gleaned online from law enforcement to build a case. So there's a recent case in Nebraska, for example, where a woman is being charged for helping her daughter get an abortion, and they used Facebook messages to build their case. So we know that there are aspects of this that this has long been an issue between law enforcement and privacy advocates that say they should be limited in the amount of information they can get from us online. But this is part of, if you're online, you are sharing your information.
All right, Ann Flaherty, Dr. Jessica Shepard, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.